Originally, I was going to recap the whole show, but I decided against it. I decided to serve this video more like a review of the show. I do want to note that I'll briefly recap the story and give my thoughts on it, so I do want you to stop this video, watch both seasons and return. So we know that the official Fallout show is coming out in April. At the time of making this video, it hasn't come out yet, but I really hope it's good since they got Walton Goggins on this and I like the man's performance in Hateful Eight and the 3 episodes I've seen of Justified. After finally watching the trailer, I saw a promotional photo where I saw a wall dweller, ghoul, and a mercenary looking character. Though after writing the script and looking up on some more videos, turns out that's Brotherhood of Steel guy. But anyway, it's too late for that now, so it reminded me of something. Before the show premieres on April 12, I wanted to go back to the original Fallout show that came out in 2011. This show has 2 seasons and I wanted to take a look at these 2 seasons to see if it holds up and how good it actually was. This is my review of Fallout Nuka Break. First off, I'm gonna talk about Season 1. I liked the down on their luck gang of different mercenaries and the variety in their types. We have the comic relief wall dweller, badass mercenary chick, and the rough ghoul. The gang, as I'll call them, are in need of work and head to the town of Eastwood to find work from a guy the ghoul character, Ben, knows. Along the way, they find out that there's a bounty put on Scarlet, which is the badass chick. Turns out, she was a slave for Leon Swallow. Yes, that's the name of the main antagonist of the whole 2 seasons, an officer in Caesar's Legion, though I didn't quite catch his rank. Anyway, Ben and Twig, the wall dweller, saved her from him, though through a brief flashback scene we actually see that she saved them. The gang get to the town, get a job from the shitty guy Larry, get set up, and the show ends with Leon going after them instead of sending goons. About the characters, I want to start out with Scarlet as she's the least developed character in these first 6 episodes. She's basically just a badass and the most competent one out of the group. I didn't quite find her character enjoyable and it felt like she was a later addition to the gang, more of like a diversifier so there is a female character in the mix too. I really hope there is more development for her in season 2, as for now she's just a bland cool girl character. Ben is kinda my favorite one. There's hints of his backstory throughout the series as we see him having a chain with the winning ring on it, alluding to a passed away partner. We also get some background on what he's been doing during the apocalypse, as he's been a merc most of his time. We get to learn that he's in fact a pre-war ghoul, meaning he had a life before the bomb spell in 2077. There seems to be more to his story as we meet a character in the final episode that knows him by his full name and does know it because of his wedding ring necklace. I am anticipating that storyline to continue in the next season. Twig is the comic relief character. The intro of the show leads you to believe that he's the main character, but it's not that apparent. He's the punching bag of the gang, being used as bait in multiple strategies to get out of predicaments. He's rather charming, as the mayor of Eastwood, Touch Connors, takes liking to him immediately. His big gimmick is that he likes Nuka Cola, which is like fuel to him. We get to learn a little about his life in the vault, which is Vault 10. The vault was filled with overweight people and they made fun of him for being skinny. They put him in a fridge and glad that he could fit in one as they couldn't, which is very bizarre. Though he is made fun of, he actually does save the gang from time to time, as he ran from an ambush all the way to Eastwood, took a shish kebab, which is a sword that lights on fire, and ran all the way back to the ambush and saved his friends. I also want to mention one interaction he had with one character. When they were in Eastwood, a mysterious man's hat fell and he picked it up, gave it back, jokingly said, "Now you owe me one." And a few episodes later, when Radroach or some sort of lookalike creature was approaching him, the mysterious stranger appeared, killed the roach and disappeared, which was a cool nod to the game. Talking about nods to the game, you can really feel this is a series made by Fallout fans for Fallout fans and not being too fan servicey. We get references to the Lucky 38, NCR and some towns that appear in the game, like Goodsprings and Prim. Yes, the series is based off New Vegas, but that makes sense as it was the Fallout game that recently had come out, and since the series was released in 2011, that means that the DLC for the game were coming out around the time as well. And can't really blame the creators for choosing New Vegas. I personally think that New Vegas has the best setting for a Fallout story, but that's just being me. I wanted to mention the effects. For a YouTube series, this has a lot of production value put into it. The makeup on the ghouls is awesome and doesn't feel out of place. I did notice that their hands are perfectly normal, but that's whatever really. They could have gone the extra step, but it's really not that necessary. It's not something that sticks out like a sore thumb, though their thumb does stick out, but that's besides the question. I was shocked by the CG used. They had 2 rad roaches appear and they were CG, which is quite impressive. It kinda stuck out of course, but not to the extent the Star Wars Original Trilogy Special Edition CG does. Now, before going on to Season 2, firstly, I wanted to show my favorite interaction in the show.
Who was covering him?
Me?
May I kill the bitch?
Secondly, I wanted to talk about Leon Swallow, the main antagonist of the series. He is bland. Now, at least it is fun seeing him. I just like this menacing presence he has to himself, but as a character, he is not that interesting. There's also one thing I completely don't get. He put out the bounty for Scarlet, and Larry was a spy that wanted to take in Scarlet, but the gang fought him off. He gets his hands on Larry and asks why he shouldn't kill him for his failure. Larry says that he knows where they are and that they are heading back to Eastwood. So Leon takes a fat man and bombs the ever-loving shit out of Eastwood. Maybe I missed the dialogue clue, but I just think that's really dumb, and now it will take a longer time for him to capture her. I guess it was so they could have enough time to tell a longer story that spans 2 seasons, but it kinda bothers me that he did the stupid move. Anyway, on to Season 2. The gang gets split up in this season to eventually reunite at the big climax. Ben goes off with the Ranger, Twig ends up in a place called the Locker, and Scar gets captured. This season is just building up to the climax where the Locker fight with Leon's army. I don't have much to say about the general story. I like the more grounded and mundane plot of Season 1 before it got more grandiose. Still, Season 2 is pretty good, you know. Also I wanted to mention before getting into the characters, you can see that some time has passed since production because the season starts right where it left off, but Scar doesn't have her ponytail and Ben has his hair longer, though Twig, he relatively looks the same. To talk about the main 3 again, Scar is seriously underutilized and wasted. She has conflicting thoughts about marrying Leon because she wants to break free, but doing so will get more people killed. She confessed that once she did think she loved Leon, but once she learned about the prophecy, which I will talk about in a bit, she decided to run away, kicking off the events that will further transpire in the story. There's not much to say about Scar, as she was absent for a good amount of the season. Ben's story is really interesting and is the highlight for me. Turns out Ben has been turning feral, which means he'll lose all control of himself and will become rabid. The Ranger character knows this and wants to help him. The Ranger gets in a scuffle with some Scorpion guy, who is basically what if the Scorpion from Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery was a character in the Fallout universe? The guy is literally even called the Scorpion. It's said in the show. Anyway, the Ranger gets poisoned and Ben has to save him, but the Ranger has old pre-war photos of Ben and his wife. We get to find out that the Ranger is Ben's great-great and some more great-grandson.
Great-grandson, give or take.
Then we get some exposition that Ben was signed up for Vault 7, which was supposed to have 0 medical personnel to see how long the people will survive without medical attention. Ben got his wife in there by killing a guard and staying behind. Turns out the wife was a nurse and saved a lot of people in there. After that, they find themselves at the Locker. Twig also has a very nice story. He ends up in the Locker very early in the season and just generally helps them out. He meets a nurse, though I did forget her name unfortunately. I think it was Penny or something, but I don't want to lie. We get to find out that Twig's DNA has been rewritten by drinking Nuka Cola most of his life, and it quickens his healing. Twig has to abandon his Pip-Boy to get the locker working again, so they could produce ammunition, as Twig has been trying to convince the leader Ron to fight Leon, but Ron ain't having it. After saving his life, does Ron come around to it? Now to talk about the prophecy. It's kinda stupid.
Know all it takes for a prophecy? Some asshole to say something crazy a long time ago. Other assholes to believe it.
But essentially it tells of Leon finding a perfect mother to bear his child in a sacred place, where there is no radiation and the sun will rule the west. This is the ultimate driver of the plot. This prophecy is the reason the events of the story play out. And this is what I meant when I liked the more mundane plot of season 1, because this is just too out there for me to enjoy it. And this leads me to talk about the climax. The big fight was boring. Ben did go out attacking Leon's men, which was stupid, because they could have easily killed Leon right then and there. But okay, after Larry broke out Scar and Bonnie, don't worry, Bonnie isn't that important to the overall story. The Ranger, whose name is James, and Ben help them get to safety. Then Ben decides to sacrifice himself and take out some Legion dudes. This was pointless, as it had no effect, and I thought he did this because he was turning feral. But that plot point eventually got to a point where it was said that he doesn't have much time, but he wasn't physically turning. There were like only 2 scenes at the start of the season where he briefly went feral. So he's taking out Legion dudes and then Leon takes him by the throat and stabs him. But they kinda could've just sniped Leon there, the rifle was right there on the ground. Anyway, turns out Ron is a Brotherhood of Steel paladin and they all go out in the battle. The Ranger dies, Leon almost kills Ron and Twig, but Scar saves them, killing Leon. I kinda started having brain farts during this climax, so that's where the story ends really. Scar, Larry, Bonnie and Twig go out in the wasteland to find more adventures, and surprise surprise, the Ranger isn't dead. What? Now originally I thought I did fail to talk about the antagonists, but turns out I did talk about Leon in the season 1 portion of the video. But to be honest, Leon just straight up sucked. He got even worse. He was cool when he was more mysterious, but the more we get to see him, the more he starts to become more boring and annoying. This scene captures my thoughts about Leon precisely.
God, am I the only one who's just getting fucking sick of that guy?
Hell no.
Leon was too bland and way overpowered in my opinion. When he fought Ron, he literally fought a dude with a sledgehammer and power armor while he only had a machete. I don't know. Anyway, I think his right hand man Daniels was underutilized. He could have had a mini plot overthrowing Leon, but instead his head got blown off by a slave collar. I also want to talk about the fact that the antagonists could have been just some slavers raiders. They didn't have to be Caesar's legion. There was no commitment for that part. None of the legionaries had the armor. They all were dressed like typical Fallout raiders. They didn't even commit to their dialect. The funny part about Caesar's legion is that while all the legionaries speak somewhat poetically and very formally, Caesar just says everything really straightforward. But to conclude, I think the show started out really strong, but the longer it went on, the worse it started to seem. I'd give season 1 a 7.5 out of 10, while season 2 gets more of a 6 out of 10 from me. Now, as I've been making this video, it has come to my attention that the guy playing Twig is planning to make a new show and has crowdfund for it. Also during this time, there has been a Fallout 4 fan film released called Fallout Dead Weight, which I am planning on covering too. There are also some short films from the same people that made the Nuka Break show, so I'll check that out too. I wanted to take a look at the series before the official Fallout show comes out, but by the time I release this video, it might be out already. Anyway, with that, I give the whole show a rating of 7 out of 10, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked what you saw, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.